Hi, are you adequately aware of your boundaries? Now, there are different kinds of boundaries. Let me see if I can explain. There are societal boundaries or cultural boundaries, and you're aware of the idea that some cultures are more comfortable if you're closer to them, and some cultures are more comfortable if you're further away from them when you're talking. And I guess in the West, we're a little bit more distant, and perhaps somewhere else, they're a little bit more close. Okay. Also, of course, we know when a cultural norm or a cultural barrier has been, or boundary has been violated. I was walking through the car park at Oxford Railway Station a few weeks ago, and a man was urinating in the corner of the car park. That to me seemed like a boundary violation because you're not supposed to urinate in public. Likewise, you don't walk around in your underwear in public. But if you're in a different context, I was going to run for a half marathon, and both men and women were dashing behind trees to have a quick wee before they went off for a run, and women were doing the same thing, and that didn't feel at all a cultural violation. And whilst you're not allowed to walk around in your underwear in the streets, you're perfectly allowed to walk around in what's called a bathing suit, which looks like underwear on a beach. So, but we all know the rules, right? We all know these rules, and we know when they're violating them, and we know when things are not quite what they're supposed to be. Okay, but we also have another boundary, and that's like our internal boundary. And whilst we all know the rules of cultural boundaries, our own personal boundaries are completely unique to us, and so we set them ourselves, but we don't always set them kind of where they want to be, you know? So for instance, if your boundaries were what we might call porous, or if stuff could get through your boundaries, you might be open to more abusive, more bullying, more unpleasant situations in relation to other people. If, however, your boundaries are too tight and a bit too strong and too rigid, you might be considered to be cold, prickly. You might be considered to be a bit standoffish, right? So we're always adjusting them to some extent, or we want to try and adjust them so that it gives us the best outcome. The thing is, your boundary is based to a large degree on what you think about yourself and what you think about the other people who are likely to challenge your boundaries. But I think the main thing is it's what you think about yourself. If you feel that you have decent personal value, if you feel like you have self-esteem, if you feel you have confidence in yourself as a person, it's likely that your boundaries will be pretty good. If you feel that you do not have value as a person, if your self-esteem is low, and if you feel that you don't value yourself or that other people won't value you, it's likely that your boundaries will be relatively weak, which means that it's easy for people to penetrate your boundary and abuse you in some way, to push your boundary and to say things to you that are not appropriate, and things that you'd never say to someone else, and to do things that are not appropriate. So let me exhort you, let me urge you to pay attention to your boundaries a little bit more and think about kind of where you want them to be. And that really means, how do you want people to treat you? That's the big telling issue with respect to boundaries.